Welcome to the GCI Conference Center. Thank you. Please stand by. If you are the chairperson, press the start key now. Your conference will begin when the chairperson arrives. Please wait. chairperson has not yet arrived, please try your call again later. Welcome to the GCI Conference Center. Please enter your access. Thank you. Please stand by. If you are the chairperson, press the star key now. Your conference will begin when the chairperson arrives. Please wait. You will now be placed into conference. There are 14 participants in the conference.
Okay, okay, hello. Check one. Mic's up, on. There we go. No test. No? Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, we're back on. It's 1:10 Marijuana Control Board in Fairbanks, and all 4 of the current members are present. So we are moving on to lunch for a couple of us. New retail marijuana store application. License 14416, the new company store in Cordova.
Dana Lopine, attorney for the new company store, and Melina Meyer, the licensee, is on the phone.
Your rep for Cordova, where's your extra tufts?
Man, I forgot him.
Did you tell your cousin?
Yeah. I know, I'll tell my cousin, she'll incorporate it.
Okay, phone off?
It's on.
It's on.
Should be.
So we can, okay, so who's your client?
Melina Meyer.
Okay, Miss Meyer, are you with us?
I am, and I have my extra tufts on.
Oh, right on.
Right.
Okay, very good. Hold on just a minute. We'll get a motion here so we get started. Is there a motion for approval of license 14416 new retail?
Mr. Chair, I would move that the board approve license 14416 with delegation.
Is there a second? I'll second. Okay, second by Mr. Jaime. Okay, go right ahead, Ms. Waltzine, and,
Sure, this is gonna be a retail in Cordova. Right now it's only gonna be a retail. There's not currently a plan for having a cultivation or anything else. And Melina, would you tell them a little bit about your, how long you've been in Cordova and what you do there?
Yeah, I'm Melina Meyer. I was born and raised here in Cordova along with my family. I've been here for a few generations, but ancestors go back to the time of Alaska. I'm an active community member. I currently serve on the city council and looking to put my roots down even further in Cordova as a young adult and have a brick and mortar store.
okay, very good.
Ms. Welchine said that there was just a retail store, no idea cultivation. On the MJ00 form, the applicant did state that they have a cultivation license 14415.
So I said that's
It is initiated.
It's initiated, so I gotta to clarify at this time, that's not going forward, so that's
Okay,
why I
well,
wanted to note
it's
that.
initiating. I had a couple.
Yeah, that's
Go right ahead.
On the MJ01 7 of 11, it talks about in-house training staff. In the middle, says the educational packet will discuss relevant cannabinoids and marijuana plant strain ratios, marijuana benefits and risks. Just reminder to be cautious of medical claims, and when you talk about benefits and risks, sometimes that's an issue, and we need to stay away from medical advocacy and those kinds of things.
That's a great reminder.
And then, this may take me a while to, over there, but on 11 of 11, one of your extensions, but it's on extension 6.4, and under number 9, it talks about what rules you follow, the general, federal, state, and local employment regulations.
I see that.
By which hot pot?
Yeah, that was a little,
Is that a cut and paste from you?
That's
You forgot
a,
to
yeah,
substitute?
cut and paste and revisions that we didn't catch that one.
Okay. Just a reminder, I do read these.
I know that you read them.
Those are my questions.
Okay, thank you. How many, so have you, sorry. Miss Meyer, so
Yes?
have you been in business before, of, any kind, or?
I've been self-employed. My parents are business owners of a hotel, bar, and restaurant, so I've been very involved with that growing up and have managed it for several years, but I'm looking to start my own business and do something different, but I have a few different management backgrounds.
Great, wonderful. And you didn't have any issues with the city down there?
Last year when I first initiated, there was, a group of locals who put around a petition to ban any of the industry in Cordova, and that went to a special election vote, but it failed, so it's not banned in Cordova, and the vote turned out about it did in 2014, about 2-1 in favor.
And can you give them an update on your local use approval process?
Yeah, so we do a conditional use permit, and I went ahead and got the conditional use permit before they made it mandatory, but it is mandatory now, and then they also extended the boundaries for schools to be 1,000 feet rather than the 500. But my proposed location is away from any residential. It's in a very industrial area. It's close to town, but not out of town, away from any public space. That was the main concerns with the planning and zoning for locally here, but I met all the criteria.
Oh, yeah, Cordova's on the snow front.
Yeah.
So like first stop, right?
60 and 60.
Yeah, okay.
50?
Yeah.
So you won't have any problem getting product in there. Is there any cultivation in Cordova now?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. All right.
Nope, I would be the first license for any of the licenses.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, that was, Mr. Who moved the motion?
I did.
Mr.
Jones and Mr. Heine. Okay. All right. Then on license 14416, new marijuana retail store, the new company store in Cordova with delegation. Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Heine. Mr. Miller.
Yes.
And I'm yes, there you go.
Thank you.
Did you say you run a
Thank
city?
you so much.
Well, I'll see you in November at AML, right?
Oh, yeah, I'll see you here.
This brings us to Alaska Taste Cannabis, Anchorage.
You have something to do next
This
year.
is Alaska Taste Cannabis here. It's online.
Good afternoon, this is Lance Wells, attorney on behalf of Alaska Tasty Cannabis, here with my clients today.
Okay, it's Mr. Pashka.
Mr. Poshka is present.
Okay, and Mr. Lamani.
Yeah, Mr. Imani present. Yeah.
You got any relatives in Bethel, Mr. Lamani?
One cousin on him.
All right, yeah, we got a police officer up there.
Yeah.
If they ask you.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion for, license, 20151, Alaska Taste Cannabis delegation.
Thanks for doing this for me.
Motion to approve license 20151, Alaska Taste
Okay,
Cannabis
second?
with delegation.
I'll second.
Good by Mr. Jones. Okay, gentlemen, go ahead and introduce yourselves to us and tell us what you've got in mind.
Hi, this is Azrin Porshka, majority owner of Alaska Tasty Cannabis. I've been in the industry for about 2 years now with cultivation up in Fairbanks. We decided to get into the retail industry, so found a prime location here in town, so we just wanted to move forward with that.
Okay, yeah, you were in front of us when we were at the DEC office, right?
Say that again?
You were at our meeting up in Fairbanks at the, when we were in that little tiny space.
Yeah,
at
about
DEC.
2 years ago.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago, actually.
So, looks like you got big plans for this building here, do you?
Well, as of right now, we just plan on doing a retail. In the near future, it's a possibility maybe doing like edibles, but that's a big question mark right now. Mainly, we want to stick forward with the retail side.
Okay, so you're not what do you cultivate this purpose crop there? Future kitchen, okay. All right, how's business in Fairbanks going for you?
So far, so good. No complaints. I mean, you guys can see I have no violations. I've been going by the book, following the rules, paying taxes, doing everything that needs to be done.
Good. Mr. Chairman, sir.
You passed over a little bit too fast on the unused space, for me anyway.
Sure.
On your premises diagram, you have very small area for the retail. You've got a very large area that you are calling storage. But in that area you're calling storage, is, security and surveillance room. It looks like the restrooms are through that storage area. Can you explain just how big this building is, and do you have control of it all, and you're just...
So if you guys are really familiar with it, it's the old rice bowl. So it's kind of like really was existing how it was. We just split up one little section over there to make like a storage room in the back, or like a packaging room.
On the retail sales is 628.
And the retail section is 628 square feet.
Well, I missed the first part of that. You said this is the old rice bowl building?
Yes.
You guys seem to know where it is. That's a pretty large building for small retail, but...
Yes, it is.
Okay.
There's a lot of work to do in the kitchen. It was a mess.
So you own the building now outright?
No, leasing.
Well, Lamani Organization's a leaseor. I'm thinking that maybe one of you are related to that.
Yes.
And that lease is for the entire building, right?
Yep.
This is Lauren, Mr. Chair. Yes. Because you have such a large space and a small space that would be the licensed premises, be aware, I think, that, that may cause sometimes enforcement to want to make sure you're not storing stuff out there and stuff that...
Well, I mean, the whole building will be under surveillance camera, like...
But I think they will explain when they come in for the inspection what they consider to be the licensed premise and what they don't, and what's allowed outside of that and what isn't, so, pay close attention.
Okay.
If I can interject, if you look at the MJ02, this is Jessica Smith with Lanswell's office. I helped prepare the MJ02 diagrams. The perimeter that is in the bold green, which also encompasses the surveillance room, storage, et cetera, that is all part of the license, the proposed licensed premises. The only portion which is excluded from the proposed licensed premises a future extraction and kitchen area where there's still some work being conducted, but the actual proposed licensed premises itself is that area which is in the perimeter of green, and then the green striped area is the not restricted access component of that.
I was gonna ask the director if the liquor license issue has been resolved.
Through the chair, no, it has not yet been resolved, so it'll need to be moved out of this premises.
So there's still a liquor license for the purposes?
Well, clearly the owners of the liquor license have lost, right title and interest to this property, but there's still a liquor license attached to this address, so that needs to be resolved.
So, Mr. Lamani or Mr. Wells or Mr. Pleska, you know anything about that?
This is Mr. Wells. I'm aware that there is a liquor license attached to the building itself. Of course, the building has been sold. The Lamanis own the building now, and it's being leased to my client, Alaska Tasty Cannabis. I'm not sure the best way to go about that as to whether or not the ABC board simply voids that license out. You know, there's not a bar there anymore, obviously. There's no liquor on premises. I guess I would ask for the ABC Board's guidance or through this board as to how they would like us to handle that issue, or whether that would be something that would be handled strictly by the Alcohol Beverage Commission.
Well, it would be handled by the ABC Board. Do you have any idea what the licensee's intentions are, the liquor licensee?
We have been unable to have any contact with the liquor licensees at all. They have not responded to any communications. They've pretty much gone off the radar and incognito, so to speak. So I don't know if the liquor board would just simply revoke the license at this point in time.
Mr. Chair, so that's not exactly how liquor licenses work. The licensee has a 2-year license, and since they've lost right title and interest to the premises, they'll need to, if they want to retain the license, they'll need to transfer it, or they can surrender the license. So we are certainly trying to work with them to to get that to happen in order to keep this process moving along, but that issue does need to be resolved before this license could be issued.
I understand. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, we can do that part, don't we? Okay, so, Monty, what is he, that in Fairbanks, you get a retail or a cultivate?
Cultivation.
Okay. And it's standard?
Yes.
Okay. So it's a good guess that some of your product would be going down here. Any other questions on, questions for Alaska Tasty Cannabis?
He just called in.
Oh. That's 20151, Alaska Tasty Cannabis. New retail, Anchorage. Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Jaime. Miller.
Yes.
I'll vote yes. There you go. And that's with delegation. Delegation includes resolution of the liquor license.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Okay, Badger Buds LLC.
The conference is now in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, and I apologize for talking a little loud there. Got it. Okay, license number 20561, retail, is there a motion?
Motion to approve license 20561, Badger Buds.
Is there a second? Mr. Jaime, second.
With delegation.
With delegation, yeah. So introduce yourself to us and tell us what you get in mind there.
Hey, I'm Michelle Westlake. This is my son Joe and my partner. We're looking to put a small retail store on Badger Road between here and North Pole. We are leasing to own the building, so it will be at one point it'll be ours. My son also is the owner of BC Buds Cultivation and between Fairbanks and North Pole.
Mr. Chair? Yes, sir.
My note, pretty much, I was looking at the premises diagram, and you've got rental C, stairs up, various entrances. Can you sort of explain the configuration of that? You show an Arctic entrance, and then there's an entrance that is not in purple. I assume that goes to rental C. It was hard for me to picture
it.
Sort of how the separation is, because there's a lot of doors going in and out of the office.
It used to be an automotive building.
Okay.
So there's a lot of doors. So in the very center of the building, there's a door that is an Arctic entrance. To the right is a large bay where we have currently have a trucking company leasing, and then there's stairs to go up to a small apartment. And then to the left is a door that would go into the retail office. And then To the left of that is another Arctic entrance with another door. That would be the door to the retail store where customers would enter. So the other one would be restricted for employees only and to the trucking company, yeah.
Real quick. So I believe you were asking about the door that goes from the office to the C. That door, yes, it does go from the marijuana facility into a separate unit, but there's, it's deadbolted from both sides, so they can't enter and we can't enter. It's just kind of, instead of removing the door and putting a wall there, we decided to maintain the door for future potential. We plan on possibly putting maybe on-site consumption, maybe extraction, maybe, we really want to see where our retail tells us to go, and go from there.
Mr. Chair, if I can, you know, we no longer see sort of the camera placements. But one of the basic restrictions for that is that any potential entrances and exits doors, you know, need to be cambered. So whether or not that means, even though it's deadbolted, whether or not in Unit C, the trucking company, you would need to have a camera on that door to make sure that somebody inside didn't leave it open and then they, you know, so that'll be something the investigators will probably ask you when they do the inspection. But that was part of my concern. There's just a lot of doors.
A lot of doors, yeah.
And that's always a concern when you're sharing it with a non-licensed premise in a different business.
So, who owns the building right now?
Dan Sheridan owns the building, and we...
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at a sublease agreement, I apologize.
Yes, and then I'm subleasing the building from him, so then I lease to the trucking company, and I will be leasing to Badger Beds LLC.
All right. So you're gonna be moving product from your cultivate into the retail?
Yes.
How far off the beaten path are you there? You're off Badger Road, right?
Just off Badger Road.
Off the beaten path, do you mean how far off Badger?
Well, look kind of wilderness to see, but this is Fairbanks, not full.
About 150 feet off of Badger Road, to the property, that's the property line? Yeah, it's about 250 feet to the edge of the building from Badger.
Any signs out in the corner?
No, our only sign's gonna be, well, we have one sign that's going on top of the Arctic entrance, and then potentially another sign as a window cover, because you're not allowed to see through the windows, so we want to kind of incorporate that with the sign as well.
You're thinking about on-site, that wouldn't be until after you own the whole building.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions or, Buzz, you're outside the North Pole city limits?
Correct. And we received our conditional use on Tuesday.
All right, anything else? Then on license 20561 Badger Buds LLC, new retail, Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Behind
Yes.
us.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Yes, there you go. Thank you. Hey, Mile High.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
this
yes.
application has been withdrawn.
Thank you. Wildflower in Kodiak. Hey. That was a quick trip.
Dan Waltzy. Denise Stevens.
Okay, so this is for license, 21069, Wildflower New Retail in Kodiak. We have a motion.
Motion to approve license 21069 Wildflower.
Is there a second? Okay, thank you. All right, good afternoon. Introduce yourself.
My name's Denise Stevens, and I'm one of the licensees of Wildflower. I've lived in Kodiak most of my life, and we're going to do this in conjunction with the Alaska Lebanon cultivation over in Homer. So we're kind of timing it to where they'll probably both see us and running around the same time.
Just to add to that, Denise owns a CPA firm.
Yes, I'm a partner in a CPA firm in Kodiak.
Yeah. How many retailers are in Kodiak now?
This will be the second one. There's been another one that's been approved, but he's kind of out the road and in a building phase. I'm not sure where he's at, but there is one open right now downtown.
You're in an existing building, right?
Yes.
So, Kodiak's got a big Coast Guard population, and of course, all the active duty guys can't be smoking pot. Do you have any? I mean, if a guy walked in and said, "Yeah, here's my ID," would you guys take the liberty of saying, you're in the Coast Guard homes, you might want to think twice. We'll sell it to you if you want to think twice. I'm not asking you to enforce that on the but. There's a lot of.
I get what you're saying, and I think that, so Kodiak has about 15 to 17,000 people, and I would say about 7,000 are Navy, SEALs, and military.
Yeah.
So I do believe that the military themselves will be having a much more watchful eye over their enrolled personnel. My personal answer to that is I'm not a babysitter.
No, I'm not asking you. I'm just,
So, I mean, we'll see as time goes on. I don't feel that that's my responsibility, personally.
Nick's right uphill from Elmendorf, so.
I mean, if they come in their uniform with the buzz cut, I might, just like you would in the liquor store with a pregnant woman, but at the end of the day,
Could be it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No,
Or for their wife,
That's fine. And so it'd be worth asking. So how are you gonna haul your, you're just gonna use one of those, barges they see on TV going from, Homer to Kodiak?
Yeah, we did purchase a small Cessna that, we can, but then also just the routes available to me through the state, transporting it via the allotted.
Go to Anchorage and back
Yep.
on Kodiak. There's no direct flights from Kodiak to Homer, is there?
There are sometimes in the summer, it's seasonal, but yes, you can, and it's nicer because it's way faster, but there are seasonal flights between the two.
There's called big Kodiak.
There's one, a limited out in, the same area that the second, retailer, I don't know if any of you guys go to Bell Flats, it's kind of a separate community of Kodiak, and there is a limited cultivator there, yes.
Good. Some questions I had. John?
Thank you. Maybe the attorney or somebody can explain to me a little bit. I was on the MJO forms. I think there's 4 owners listed, or 5. Many of them are part of, what did they say, the member of the Hibernation Holding Company.
Yeah, we did a holding company that will own both Alaska Lebanon and.
Well, that was my question, because, there's a question, do you currently have or plan to have an ownership? And they said yes. If yes, which licenses? I plan but do not currently have an ownership and a cultivation license in the future. But you get down to Don Colonnades, and he's part of that group, and he says he owns the one
in Alaska Lebanon.
in Alaska Lebanon. I think you're shown as a manager, not an owner, and you're on
No, I'm a
Lebanon, or...
licensee as well.
Yeah,
So it's him and I
Janelle
out there
Stevens, but
now.
anyway,
So we can't do the transfer for Alaska Lebanon, until it reaches active status. So we're going to be doing that transfer, and then, so Alaska Lebanon will be owned 100% by Hibernations, and Hibernations is owned by these 4 individuals.
So as it stands now, we have 2 individuals in this group are part of Lebanon, and 2 that are not.
That will be.
If this becomes active, then you'll go through the ownership change.
Transfer, yeah. And
Okay.
it'll be 100% transfer over to Hibernations Holdings.
Okay.
Either I've sat through too many of these discussions, or Maybe I have, because it's starting to make sense.
All right.
We've had a lot more complicated ones in front of us.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's that one group in Anchorage that has 15 or 35
Like
Well,
members.
somebody come in and like one person, he had 8 holding companies or something.
Yeah,
We're gonna try to stick to the one.
Yeah, that's the one.
well, I mean, you understand that we've had lots of issues with transfers that have taken place that shouldn't have taken place, and that's why this was sort of confusing to me. It's nice to know you have a plan,
Yeah.
but,
And that's, can I ask the director a question, through the chair? That's still the rule, right? We wait till active status?
But it can be active pending inspection,
Okay.
which is where it looks like you,
Wait,
right now, it's just
That was
the
one-
delegated
yeah, that was
status
one
you
of the
can't
things
do.
we
We
wanted
didn't
to-
know for certain.
Okay. Then we can start doing that, yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah, you plan on on-site consumption in there?
Through time, it would be nice. I was, curious to listen to your first one today because it would probably be something similar to that nature because there's a lot of land around. And so, I'll stay tuned.
I actually, unless I took over the full building, this building doesn't qualify.
Yeah.
But if it was outside and you guys.
There's a checkbox for you on there anyway. So.
they checked the box, no,
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah.
Because unless something changed, this doesn't work.
There's a lot of space outside now that we could put a
Be
structure
outside
on.
in the rain.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions about this license application? Okay, not hearing any. License number 21069 Wildflower, new retail in Kodiak, with delegation. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so there you go.
Oh, thank
Thank you.
you.
Yeah,
I just
very
wanted to
welcome.
add, as a mom who's now a licensee, I do support, what you guys are working towards on restricted spaces for nursing mothers and stuff of that nature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we're up to, speaking of license transfers. Are any of these yours, Miss Wilson?
Yes, but.
So, you know, other these guys, they're already coming up, you must be Moose Garden.
Yes.
Okay. All right. This. Okay, we have a motion for, license 10025 Moose Garden LLC transfer, of ownership on the standard marijuana cultivation facility.
So motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Miller, second. From Mr. Hyde. Good afternoon. Go ahead and introduce yourselves to us and tell us what, you'd like to do.
My name is Bruce Martin. I own Budding Alaska.
My name's Angela Yan, I own Moose Garden.
My name is Marius Yen, a co-owner of Moose Gardens.
Okay, so so you're transferring, you're not just creating an LLC, huh? What are you doing here?
We're selling my business to them.
Okay, so that's Cultivate and Seward.
Yes.
Well, does Moose Garden have a license?
Moose Garden has license. I'm a licensee of AM Delight, and we made the LLC to take over Budding Alaska. Moose Garden LLC to take over Budding Alaska.
Okay.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
The memo in our packet from staff doesn't say anything, but the agenda says that, Department of Labor Workers' Compensation objects due to non-compliance. Can the director explain why that's not on the memo, or that's been changed since either the memo was drafted or the agenda was drafted?
Yes,
And
the director can if you'll give me a
who's not in
second.
compliance with labor relations or workers' comp? Is it the person selling or the person buying?
Neither.
Neither.
All right, it looks like the agenda was not updated. We received notification from the Department of Labor Workers Comp that they were compliant on, June 26th.
Okay, thank you.
Apologies for not updating the agenda.
Great, that's why I asked.
So, this is, actually, I think, the first time we've had a transfer of this fashion, I believe. I mean, a lot of them have been, you know, from Marks LLC to Marks LLC Inc. I mean, it's been within there, I think we've had a couple sales here. Not that it means anything, but it's just, you know. So you've got a cultivate, and you've got a retail, okay. That was the name of it on the sun, like it was a manufacturer. And you're in Anchorage, and you're in Seward.
Correct.
And so how's the business down in Seward? Okay. You gonna just pick up his workforce, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Moose Garden is being leased? I mean, property, or? I was looking at the lease here.
Yes, I'm also the property owner.
Okay.
Frostbite Lease Services owns the real estate, is a holding company we have for our real estate holdings. And we've got a lease in place with Moose Gardens. As soon as you guys approve, takes effect.
All right. And how's the retail business in Anchorage treating you?
Good.
Must be.
Yeah.
Where are you guys located at in town?
We're on
Western.
Bernard
Oh, no.
and, Anchorage.
All right. So you've been buying off of the cultivation market up till now?
Yes, sir.
They've been one of my clients.
Like what you've grown. Okay, any other questions? You guys know how to grow marijuana, right?
Yes, sir. I've been a horticulturist since I was 17.
Right. Okay. Then on, license 10025 Moose Garden, ownership transfer, with delegation, and, Kenai Peninsula Borough conditions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kenai Peninsula Borough conditions. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Jaime? Yes. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Yes, so, here we go.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Fuzzy Monkey.
Jan Waldine, attorney for Fuzzy Monkey, and Jamie and Mindy Millhouse are on the line.
Okay, we get two Fuzzy Monkeys here.
The conference is no longer in listen-only mode.
Why?
Three.
Okay, and that's on off. Mr. Millhouse, you there?
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon.
Millhouse.
Yeah, introduce yourself for the record. Okay.
Yes,
So,
James Millhouse.
all right, so this is just, splitting with your wife.
Correct.
All right. Any questions on? Yeah, standard transfer. How's Eagle Street working out for you for a location?
Awesome, brother.
Good, okay.
How's Hawaii?
Awesome.
You missed
You guys
another
are
one.
interrupting us.
Okay, cool. So we're ready to vote on, we need a motion. Yeah, I need a motion. Motion on 10293 Fuzzy Monkey Standard Holding. Transfer.
Motion to approve transfer license 10293 Fuzzy Monkey with delegation.
Second. Second by Mr. Jaime. Any questions? Not hearing any on license 10293 Fuzzy Monkey, transfers the ownership, part ownership of Santa Cultivation Facility. Jones?
Yes.
Jaime? Miller?
Yes.
Yes. That?
Motion to approve license transfer license 10864 Fuzzy Monkey. This is
Retail.
retail. Sorry, I didn't say on my sheet.
With delegation.
With delegation.
Second. Okay. Discussion this one? Okay, license 10864 Fuzzy Monkey, retail transfer, Jones? Yes. Sir?
Yes.
Yes. There you go. And then last is Green Lake District.
Motion to approve license transfer license 10933 Alaska Green Light District retail
Delegation.
with delegation.
Second. Second. No.
No,
Okay, any discussion on this one? There any? All right, Jones? Yes. Jaime? Miller?
Yes.
I'm a yes, so here you go.
Thank you.
And Aurora Blaze.
Hi, my name is Brittany Getchell. I'm the owner of Aurora Blaze LLC.
How are things in Fairbanks?
Smoky.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Must be at work.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's see here. Moved up. So this is license, 12328. So you're transferring 50% to Mr. Roybal?
From Roybal to me.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. Okay. Get a motion on, 12328.
Motion to approve license transfer license 12328 Aurora Blaze.
Yeah, was there a second? All right. So you guys got a standard cultivate, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great. It's gotten better with time. We've been open over 2 years now, and I've been running the office over there. Going pretty good.
Okay. Where are you located at?
2693 Arla Street, off of Van Horn.
So you buying them out?
Yes.
Okay. Doing good on your taxes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any, questions, for Ms. Geitzel? Seeing any, another motion to approve transfer, license 12328 Aurora Blaze LLC, 100% ownership by Brittany Geitzel. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hyman? First time, Mr. Miller?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. There you go. You're good.
Awesome, thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay. No, you don't have one here. All right. Striking this. Look at this.
Want me up here? Want me up here?
So if we get done at a decent hour, you guys gonna change your plates?
We can work on it.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, are you gonna change your plates?
Probably not.
Okay, Momo's Bakery, this is a, okay, it's renewal. Okay, all right, license 10903, renewal of product manufacturing. Do we have a motion for renewal?
Motion to renew license 10903, Momo's Bakery.
Delegation. Is there a second? Okay. Momo's Bakery, are you in line?
Yes, I am here. This is Pete Eberhardt.
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Eberhardt. Okay, so you got a, relatively speaking, a relatively serious NOB here from last year. I see your response. Have you had any other compliance issues since this?
I don't believe so.
Right. How's business going for you?
Very good. Lots more competition these days.
Right. Any questions on this renewal? I'm not hearing any then. Mr. Jones? Yes. Mr. Hymy?
Yes.
Mr. Clerk?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Okay, keep them boxes sealed. And you're renewed. Alaska Slow Burn Cannabis.
Dana Levine, attorney for Alaska Slow Burn Cannabis, and Lou Weaver, the licensee, is on the phone. Lou, you there?
Oh, this is an operating plan change. We're on an operating plan change now. Okay, Alaska Slow Burn, you out there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. All right, go ahead and introduce yourself to us. Okay.
I'll answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
Lou Weaver owns and operates AK Slow Burn Cannabis located on 2042 East 3rd Ave. He also has a Tudor location that's not operating yet, but it's getting very close. This is a change just to identify kind of some cleanup work where the board made it clear that if a retail is going to roll some pre-rolls, they would like to see that in the operating plan, and we didn't have that, and so we wanted to update our operating plan. So that's all that it is.
Right. Pretty good.
And adding the deli style sales to the northwest front corner of the retail sales area. So that's just if you have a jar of weed, somebody comes in and says, I want 2 grams, you weigh it out, put it in a child-resistant opaque container, put it in an extra bag.
Yeah, I'm looking at the operating plan change, and all I see is AK Slow Burn intends to sell pre-rolls.
And then there's a little line above that.
There's some little tiny stuff here. Yeah, all right. All marijuana, no.
Forms are funky. Says adding deli sales counter to the northwest front corner of the store and updating the overall layout of the store to remain in compliance. AK Slow Burn intends to roll and sell pre-rolls.
What page of that is on the MJ03?
Page 3.
Section 3.
Right there.
Right there.
Is it premises diagram?
Yeah, I see it.
Already went through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did them both at the same time.
We should have attached it.
Yeah, that really made more sense, because we had the permit, so the permit diagram change was submitted and approved by, enforcement at the same time this was. So, next time I'll look earlier and make sure it's in there.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right. Is there any debate on, operating plan change for Alaska Slow Burn Cannabis 10245? Not hearing any, Mr. Jones? Yes. Jaime? Mr. Miller?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. There you go. Okay. Top Hat Concentrates.
Janet Waldine, attorney for Top Hat Concentrates, and this is basically just moving towards the sustainability of our packaging in the industry. So they're wanting to swap out a new biodegradable package, like box for the vaporizing cartridges that will replace the plastic blister pack that they currently have. And it was temporarily approved by Erica. Of course, the final approval rests with this board. As you'll go down and read the description, it is has child-resistant seal, opaque. It's much harder to get into, but it's biodegradable.
Okay, no change to the contents.
No, no change.
Okay.
This is just packaging.
Yep, all right, very good.
Motion to approve operating plan changes for license 10271, Top Hat Concentrate with
Is there
delegation.
a second? Second. By Mr. Jones. Discussion? All those in favor of approving, survey? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, back to Momo's Bakery. Okay, Momo's Bakery, you still there? Last one. Momo's Bakery. All right, well, we'll drag you back to you. Lady Gray.
Daniel Dean, attorney for Lady Gray Medibles.
Motion to approve operating plan changes to license 12254, Lady Gray Gourmet Medicals.
And a second. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, I'm Jamie Cross.
Okay, you got mine here.
Basically, we're just wanting to do some updating on the packaging, serving sizes and things.
Oh, good,
for
very much ours.
Recent updates we've been through the board approval.
Let me turn the phone off.
The conference is now in listen-only mode.
Well, so these four products here?
Yes, at the moment.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So I think I think we had some communication about this granola at some point in the past, and I think I was supposed to bring this in front of the board, and I never did. But trying to look for the proper section, but products are supposed to have, let's see. The demarcation, sorry, I need to find the section on demarcation. Okay, if the marijuana product contains multiple servings, this is at 306-565, the marijuana product contains multiple servings, be designed so that the marijuana product itself has markings or demarcations clearly delineating each serving of the product. If for liquid marijuana products with multiple servings, the package must indicate the number and size of individual servings. So this is not a liquid product, but there are some packages that appear to contain multiple servings. Is that correct? So I think that the individual servings of the granola need to be packaged individually, and they can be then put together as in 3 mini packs, but
So if I may, I add, that is the way that we originally did this product.
Mm-hmm.
But at the Juno meeting, there was a product you approved for another licensee, some kind of nut butter, and you approved teaspoons. And
nut butter is closer to a liquid. I mean, you can make an argument there. And
we're just trying to cut down on
granola.
packaging. It's a big deal. we're really getting concerned about this industry getting a huge black eye from the amount of packaging that is being expended. So that's what this attempt is, just to limit the packaging and, so we simplify it. And so we have another applicant get approved for the teaspoons, and so we were hoping to get that same consideration here. And I do understand the liquid versus argument, but, you know, a teaspoon is a universal form of measurement.
So.
And just to also add, this is currently already being made by.
Right, there's a product, yeah, you just want to change your,
Just want to change the packaging.
how is it packaged right now?
Individual.
Individually, and they're
You buy teaspoons.
individually weighed as well. Yeah, it's a lot of, extra time and trash. Those little bags, they're not in any way reusable. And extra labels and everything else that goes into
And
them.
this is just
Well, this is,
munching granola.
you spoon out 2 teaspoons, or I'm sorry, 3 teaspoons is one serving, and Tasha's middle name, or her middle name is Tasha, that's what I call her, not Jamie. She's never failed a test, for this product.
And we've been in production with it for 18 months.
Mr. Chair, if you want to accommodate this kind of thing, I think you need to change the regulations.
Oh, for demarcation.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think of what other loose type products that we've had, and most of them are, tangible, like one chocolate or something. What do you think, Mr. Jones? So right now, you're selling it in little...
Like little Ziploc bags, little tiny Ziploc bags that go in one Mylar bag. So it's packaging on packaging.
Yeah.
I mean, we're happy to put demarcation on the outside of this label. I just don't think that would be as precise as teaspoon measurements.
I agree. Also wouldn't meet the regulation.
Demarcation.
And some settling may occur.
Right.
Okay, and so you want to tack it into these...
The same Mylar bag without all the extra packaging inside.
And if you just sold it, I mean, you want to be able to put, well, wait a second. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, you want to put 6 tablespoons, well, now.
So the different package variations are laid out there, and so if we wanted to do, for example, a 10 milligram THC packet, that would be 6 teaspoons would be in the package, and then it says on the package 3 teaspoons equals 10 milligrams serving.
And 10 milligrams total per package.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Would you feel better if we only did the 2 servings?
I'm thinking, you might want to err on the caution and have the smaller serving. I mean, obviously you're making it for a year and a half. It must be a well accepted item.
And she hasn't failed testing.
Well, I haven't failed testing either, but I mean, what I'm saying is it's something that's in demand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would prefer to be able to offer like the 50 milligrams.
I mean, because this is the licensee that came to you about, different ingredients and flavors and kind of help lay out that.
Oh, yeah, no. It's.
And then she had all of her nut butters, the same, we wanted to do the teaspoons for her nut butters, which you guys denied and then approved for somebody else in Juneau. So, I mean, being sweet as pie, but kind of frustrated.
Yeah, no, I understand.
We have the same issue with the rosemary almonds.
Mhm.
It's the same issue.
So really, because there's a lot of packaging to cut down, because there's the same issues with the nut product in here.
Frozen goodness.
So, you know, we're a coastal community, we really like to limit a little plastic that gets...
Oh, no, and, you know, there are probably people out there, not that I know, but there are probably people out there who would take a 42-gram package and gobble it down, you know, just because, you know, 5 milligrams may or may not be what you're looking for. I think there's a phrase for that. So, yeah, maybe if you just, if you had if you stuck with the 6 teaspoon bag, 42 grams, the stuff settles, right? I mean, you can't even draw a line across the bag and say, you know, 1 serving, because you're going to carry it around, and it's cereal, right?
Yeah.
It's cereal, so I mean...
It's all, the THC is all dispersed homogeneously through
No,
all...
I mean, physically, it will settle.
Physically...
You buy a box of cereal,
Yeah,
and some settling may occur.
Yeah.
And so if you go and buy a bag of granola, 10, you know, 42 grams, or 100 grams, or 200 grams, if the bag says, you know, up to this line is this much, in all likelihood, by the time you get around to opening it, you've already lost, you know,
Right.
2, 3, 4% of the volume.
Which is why we went with the teaspoon approach, because it's...
Yeah.
You know, she would be willing to get rid of the biggest option, the option that contains 50 milligrams.
No. What about including in the package a wooden teaspoon? It'll make it a little bit more expensive, but now you've got your demarcation.
No, you don't.
Huh?
You don't.
You know? Well, yeah, demarcation is demarcation.
Yeah, we offered that before.
I mean, I think demarcation could be just the demarcation on the labels identifying what the serving size is.
The regulation says the product itself has to have demarcations clearly delineating each serving. So if the board wants to address the issue of overpackaging, I think a regulations change needs to be made.
Okay? Then we can at any time, even in the middle of debating a license, I think we can make a motion to have an open regulations project. And yeah, I mean, the regulation's pretty clear, so let's,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
the only issue is that, I mean, back in October 2018, you opened the regulation project because of Tasha. Because she was the one that kind of was like willing to work with the board and come to some good conclusions. And this product's really important to her, and the way that it's being packaged now is very,
Yeah, no, I understand that. Let's see, can't pack it in a jar. Well, what about if the back of the package had a clear, transparent line down it, like some packages do, and that had the demarcations on it. But we know that with any of these edible products, the consumer is not going to go, oh, make sure I've got exactly the right amount. We know that.
Mr. Chair, all I can do is read what your regulations say.
So we have demarcations we demark bottles on liquids.
Which is specifically called out in the regulations.
So where does that nut butter fall into
That's all I
place?
got. That's all I got.
So I think we would be fine with the idea of putting the demarcations actually on the package with a little note that says settling may occur, please.
Well, it's still not,
Gently
it's still not gonna work though, because it's the product.
So-
Except for liquids has
But
to
that
get.
doesn't really, like, nut butters and, like the push pop that got approved, not one of my clients, but push pop got approved. I mean, that's technically not liquid, that's frozen, it's solid, and you allowed a demarcation on that product. I'm just not sure where the line is. And I do a lot of these, so I'm just trying to figure out what highway I'm in here.
I think we have two options, open a regulation change, or make a motion for that, or if we vote on this, it's a denial for me to know, because of the regulations.
Well, I guess I don't understand why a push pop, you know, which is frozen, so solid, you can have demarcations on that packaging, but something like this couldn't. It's perplexing to me.
I actually mentioned to the board that I thought multiple servings in a push pop was an issue, and the board went forward anyway, so I don't feel like I need to answer that question.
I'm starting now.
But one could argue that frozen liquid qualifies as liquid, but one cannot argue that granola qualifies as liquid.
Yeah.
No, we've gotten the 7% Mylar back, so that helps, yeah.
All right. I think what you have to do is,
Can I do that?
I think I would be agreeable with that.
What, did you hear her idea?
what was that?
So take the Mylar bag and then heat seal the different servings in the Mylar bag.
I think that works.
Fine, because
That's a
it'd be
good
an individually wrapped serving.
Thank you.
We should do this all the time.
Yeah, right.
Teamwork.
There's an opening on the board. That sound doable, Jim?
Actually, but if you, I don't know how it works.
It would be like, it'd be,
Be like vacuum sealing,
Like
but
How would
in
you
all
actually get
cases.
the correct amount in?
Measure
Like we
it,
do it now.
heat seal it,
No.
measure it, heat seal it, measure it, seal it.
But as you heat seal, it's gonna heat seal that whole portion of the bag.
Correct?
Yep.
cross,
Yeah,
just a cross,
so
just a
Oh,
little.
okay, so you'll,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Just a little zip.
I was thinking squares, not
Yeah.
full.
Oh,
it's layers.
Yeah, layers.
this food packaging is science, man.
And so this would be for both the granola and the rosemary almonds, or the mixed nut thing.
That sounds packaging, and,
Yeah, no, that's good.
moving in the right direction.
Okay,
I
so,
would encourage revisiting the regulation
Oh, yeah,
project that you
absolutely.
opened in 2018, October.
But, yeah, and this would particularly work on, 200 gram package. That's the kind of thing that might not see it sold in REI, but they'll wish they were selling it. Okay, so, with delegation, the licensee suggests that they may have a packaging solution that would essentially contain one serving within a multi-serving package. And so, they would like to you might add to this that, you'll continue to use your current packaging until the new packaging comes online.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
you
we have to
With delegation, it has to be approved by staff.
Yeah. Okay, so the request is to approve 4 size options. 21 grams, 42 grams, 100 grams, and 200 grams. Currently, you're just selling, what, one serving or 2 servings?
No, so currently all the servings are individually put in tiny little,
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah,
Ziploc
yeah.
bags, like tiny little drug size bags.
Gotcha.
drawings.
Have little wooden, little
I mean, that's what
paper
they look
cups,
like,
do you?
that's why we don't like them.
Okay. All right, and your proposed packaging now is, you know what? I hear Nome is really nice.
No.
No? You don't wanna wait till Nome to come
No,
and be able to show us the package?
Well, with the delegation, we send pictures to enforcement.
True. Well, you gotta, yeah, I mean, we wanna see.
I'll bring you a
How
physical.
long do you think it would take to get a package like that put together?
I'll bring you a physical example of it in September, but Tasha
I
added
don't wanna go to
it.
Nome. All right. Okay, so. All right. Who made the motion?
I think I did at this point.
Okay, let's do a motion just on the granola. There's a couple of powers here. Let's do a motion on the granola.
You did make a motion earlier.
For everything?
Yeah.
For everything? Okay. Then what else do you have on here? You got the, wanna make chocolates? Is
So,
this-
it's, I just wanna make sure it's the granola and the, I apologize, the peanuts, almonds,
Spice nuts, yeah.
that will have the same packaging.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
All right. And then what was the packaging change on your, chocolates?
The chocolates, we just want to be able to provide a microdose, kind of serving size of 2.5 milligrams of THC.
How many and a half?
2.5 per piece instead of 5. And then we'd also like the ability to do them in a bar that would have the proper delineation for 5
For
milligrams.
that area. And then, the frozen goodness.
Yes, that's
This is a,
similar issue, right? Because we've been approved and we were going to do 5 milligrams in each gram, but it just makes more sense to me and for packaging.
but these are discrete. These are one piece, right? One piece, one.
The frozen goodness?
Yeah, frozen goodness, yeah.
Yeah, that's an ice cream brand.
Oh, there's ice cream, okay.
Yes, and since we've heard a few times now, ice cream and peanut butter substances are technically usable.
It's possible to consider them that, it's up to the board.
Yep, and the board did a push pop and approved that, so I hope we missed. And the peanut butters with the teaspoon
Okay, and
measurement.
they'll be in properly sized containers.
Resealable, child-resistant containers, correct.
Yes.
With
50 milligrams
demarcations on them.
per jar. I would,
We proposed teaspoons,
yes.
because that's what you approved for different license only for peanut butter.
I mean, not gonna be heat sealing that.
But it's also
Resealable child.
not technically a solid.
Well, that's how I eat ice cream, with a spoon.
That's true, I mean, that is how you consume ice cream.
Blue bunny.
Better.
Yeah, better. But you got the blue bunny reference, all right?
Yes, we did, yes.
Okay, any questions about, okay, so let's just quickly walk through this one more time. We're gonna do the granola is gonna be in incrementally sealed tubes, basically, in the package, so that takes care of demarcation. The can, and also your nuts. Okay. And the candy is already demarked, right? And the ice cream is, you're requesting that we use the precedent that we set with another frozen confection.
Another frozen confection, but more importantly, like peanut butter. You approved peanut butter with teaspoons. True.
Okay. Any questions about any of that?
What was the justification for the approval of the peanut butter with teaspoons?
That was in Juneau, to refresh your memory.
Yeah, I was pretty drunk. I don't know.
I think you talked about how it was a universal, I don't wanna speak for you guys.
wasn't that, but I think we maybe seem like the right thing to do. I mean, how do you, you know,
You can't demark.
how do you label peanut butter, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't demarc peanut butter physically.
And it's viscous enough that you gotta use a spoon to eat it, and that peanut butter deal ring a bell at all, Mr. Jones? Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
Rings huge bell for us.
Okay, all right, so are there any questions about, Lady Gray Medibles as discussed, as delegated? Okay, then on the operating plan changes, no new products, just packaging. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Jaime?
No.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
And I will vote yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, are they back on the phone now? Okay, thank you.
The conference is no longer in listen-only mode.
Okay, Momo's Bakery, have you rejoined us?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let's get back to... All right. Operating plan change. Go ahead and, well, let's get a motion on the operating plan change for almost license 10903.
Motion to approve operating plan change for license 10903, Momo's Bakery.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, second by Mr. Jaime. Okay, go ahead and introduce yourself to us again and tell us what you're gonna change here.
This is Maureen Eberhardt.
Oh, it
Hello?
was you. Yeah, it was Mr. Eberhardt who talked to us last time. Go ahead.
Right. I know, he had to leave.
Sure. So what are you asking for us to change here?
Okay, yeah, I thought this was for the renewal. We were asking you to change because we did get that NOV about the, delivering in that box at the one time. And in our license, originally, we had a big metal box secured in the back, and we are getting rid of that because you can't even find them here, and switching it to the normal, what everyone uses, the totes, the TSA lock.
Are you, okay. So you're talking about sending product as checked baggage?
No, but we were just reading up. No, we're not doing checked baggage. We don't fly anywhere.
Yeah, it wasn't you, okay. Oh, we're going down the road, we're going down the road.
Oh, no, I don't plan on it. We're just a pretty small operation.
Right. There's a TSA lock.
Right, well, that's just what people are using, so I don't know if they double use, if they're coming from Juneau, they have them, and they can also do whatever with them, but, yeah, that's what everyone was saying that you guys all prefer.
Well, we want, block containers,
Would that even be a question?
okay, all right, I'm looking at your MJ15. I don't see nothing about totes. I'm looking at label.
You're looking at a label?
You've got an operating plan change. Let's see.
Summary of the changes on page
Yeah.
1, I believe.
Go ahead, transporting. Okay, I don't know why you had all the labels on there, maybe you just amended your own 15.
Oh, I don't know. We started doing it, and then it just kept getting kicked back from AMCO, and Jane, she just wanted more and more, so we just rewrote the whole thing and sent it in, and she said, yeah, that's better, just rewrite. I mean, all we did was clean up some of the language. We didn't really change anything.
Okay. That's okay. So now, it's a TSA lock. Why are you selecting them? Why aren't you going with the box? You talking about transporting a plastic container?
Right, the totes that everyone uses, the hard, ours are real hard, like hard, thick plastic things that you can put locks through to hold it, you know, so you have to have a code. It's a combination code instead of like a key.
Right, I know what a combination lock is.
Okay.
I'm just thinking about something a tiny bit more. I mean, number one, a plastic tote is easy to open, lock or no lock. So that doesn't give you, you know, lock doesn't give you a whole lot of security. But, you know, it's lighter to move around and, I don't know, I just don't get why you're saying TSA type lock.
Well, I just did that because everybody that comes in and picks up for their deliveries, they all have these TSA locks, which are pretty fancy, but they're really nice. And my understanding is AMCO likes TSA locks, so that's why we went with TSA locks. I mean, the other locks are actually less expensive, but we're just trying to make sure that you guys are happy with what we're using.
All right. Any get brothers on that?
Is that the extent of the change of the box, more or less?
Well, yeah, the change is the block and the box, right?
Right, because originally in our license, when we did it before, we were open, obviously, and we were just reading all the regulations way back then and what you guys were wanting. And it started out, if I remember correctly, 3 years ago, but you guys kept saying that these big metal boxes, I don't know if you remember, and a lot of people that would come to pick up, they would have these huge metal boxes, kind of like a toolbox that carpenters use in their vans, and they have these big metal things, and they're super heavy, and a lock on that. And so we thought, well, if we have to have a metal box, and so that's what our license was in. And so when we got that NOV, we were rereading it, and we thought, well, we need to put in a change here because we couldn't even find a big metal box. Plus, they're incredibly heavy.
Yeah, and
I mean, nobody uses big metal boxes. I mean, you can't pick them up.
yeah, there must be a lot of loading going on out in driveways.
And I think
Right.
information, maybe the box has to be secure, and you have to be able to tell if it's been opened or anything.
If it's been tampered with. Right.
It doesn't specify what it needs to be made of, and I think people in the early went really far to one side when they probably could have met the requirement with something less. And I think you'll see a lot of licensees coming back trying to say, well, I said I was going to do all this, and yeah, that sounded great, but it doesn't make much sense now.
And you can see what was originally approved in the third tab down, which says current MJ01. What they're changing was originally on page 15 of that. Towards the bottom, it says Momos will be transporting marijuana and marijuana products in a sealed package in a heavy-duty locked aluminum or metal storage box. The box will be in the back of the licensee's vehicle. The storage box will be locked and attached to the vehicle.
Okay.
And we expect them to operate in accordance with their operating plan, so if they're not going to do that, they need to change their operating plan.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, then, operating plan change, Momo's Bakery, license 10903. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hymy?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
I'm a yes, so there you go.
Thank you.
All right, which brings us to Cold Creek Extracts.
We'll take 10.
Yeah, we take 10, yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Before we take a break, can I make
Please.
come back up a little bit, so that you can individually think about this during the break. When you mentioned the Juno meeting and peanut butter, were you talking about almond butter?
It's some kind of nut butter.
Well, I just went back to review the minutes of that meeting, and regarding almond butter, our final decision was that the jar of almond butter had to have marks on them. I actually ended up voting no on that, and the same with infused honey. And the rationale was that, from Mr. Emmett, was that TSA considers that a liquid. peanut butter, almond butter, that kind of stuff as a liquid. So,
You marked on the ice cream.
I understand, but you specifically mentioned peanut butter and then we went with spoons, which we did not.
The conference is now in listen-only mode.
Anyway, I wanted to get that clear, that at least from the minutes, teaspoons or measuring spoons wasn't part of it. The jar had to be marked.
Okay, I appreciate you looking back at that, and I'll look back at it too, and...
And it's on page 53 of 68 of the minutes from our January meeting.
Do we need to reopen that and re-vote on that then?
No, I don't think so. I think the granola's not a liquid.
Well, I think what, I think what Officer Henry is talking about is the ice cream, but, if you don't mind, I could research it, and you can research it, we could...
I voted no anyway.
I think the chairman did say it had to have marks on it, so, anyway. About that, and revisit that after.
Okay, and then maybe then you just delegate to the director to hash out those details after you and I look at minutes and...
Well, we've long been talking about the need to do some work on the products, and it's just been something that I'm trying to fit into my schedule, so I'm hoping to have a bigger discussion ready for the board in September.
Okay, awesome, great.
Not too big.
Okay, now take a break.
Not too big of a
Take a break.
It's hard to keep our attention.
Oh, here we go. There's the.
Which one? I think I made it. Yeah.
It's a stamp. Somebody said, I nearly stole this stamp from my borough's municipal building.
That'd be awesome.
What borough is she in? New Jersey. Yeah, I figured you must have had one of those when you were working for the city of Anchorage. Here, this is for the Attorney General who has everything.
Oh, yeah.
A rubber stamp.
I like it.
Yeah.
Get some stamps.
That'd be custom, man. That'd be
I'm
custom.
accused all the time of using them mentally.
That'd be custom.
That's
Okay, now when you guys get to Juneau, make sure you tell them we didn't adjourn until 3:05 tomorrow,
because
because we're gonna be done by quitting time.
we're gonna be done, not today.
In all likelihood, I don't know, we're zipping
You've got
along.
regulations to do, Erica said. You might
There's
do.
no hard ones. There's no hard ones.
Well, then I'm not doing my job.
We might come over for coffee in the morning.
No, it's fine. If we leave tomorrow, there's 2 morning flights out of here.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. We're gonna be.
Yeah, I just have to know in time to call my, they won't let me do these things myself.
Yeah, we got regulations.
Yeah.
Regulations. Hashtag redneck Caligula.
Where? Who is it? This is K2. Is it ADM? No. We're not seeing ADM. Oh, yeah. Oh, this one here, yeah.
Yeah, if you read the caption underneath
Yeah, to them and then. Where's the information that you just got?
Twitter. That was, House Majorities, Twitter page.
Can't do that on here. Here I do my office and occasional news group.
What are regulations brought up? Public testimony?
There were some there, and it's gonna be, public testimony, 'cause remember last, you weren't here, last time, Mark,
Marijuana.
the chair said, I wanna have public testimony on all regulations projects.
Okay.
But why is this under non-proposed regulations? over on the mailbox number? Remember, we couldn't get the alcohol memo.
I don't know, I was involved in the marijuana one. All I know is I couldn't get the alcohol one with him.
On-site consumption's gonna be quite, but. Oh, it's on page 2, draft board review. Where did you do that? So we did fine schedule? Or what happened? You did that one? You do all these?
I don't know if we did, because, I know we did fine schedule. They skipped a lot of them.
Yeah, we did fine. Yeah, I know we did fine schedule.
Didn't we skip over like most of the public comment on pretty much everything except fine schedule?
There was only, public comment was on the fine schedule. Yeah, there was a specific hearing for the fine schedule. There wasn't, notice of hearing and everything else.
What did we do? Other than that.
I don't want to see these that close.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a question about the pop cups. How are they child resistant?
Oh, let me get up, I'll pass them out.
Okay.
I think I was about that. Let's just see, that didn't interest me.
I know the pop cups
Are they doing your What? Are they your clients?
No. No, but again, that's what, I thought it was teachers, I think I got confused, because I think they tried demarcations before, and you said no, and so they're going to keep them.
Oh, it's directional. Yep, that's what I thought. And the other one, it won't
You know
work.
what I mean? That's
Yep, right, if you squeeze here, oh wait.
Or,
I mean, I know you
Why don't you
were,
try it?
but like,
Yeah,
there was
okay.
Sure.
Is this child resistant?
No,
No.
yeah.
No, okay, good.
Wait.
Oh, that's almost me resistant.
What do you have to do?
It is, thanks. It's directional. No. See? It's you.
This one works the
But
same way.
you catch these two things and you can just squeeze
I
it.
know, but you
Maybe kids can't do that?
Right, and well, you know, the way they certify them, according to the federal, regulations.
Throw them in a cage with some monkeys for
Yeah.
10 minutes?
Almost, no, what they do is, they have, there's these third-party companies that are certified to do the certification.
Uh-huh.
And so they gather up a group of kids under 5 years old, and they're in specific age ranges. They've got several different age ranges under 5. And they put them in a room by themselves for 10 minutes.
tell them to M&M in here, get it out.
Something like that, yeah.
You can have a marshmallow now or 2 marshmallows later.
They have 10 minutes to open the package.
My kids could get into more stuff than I could get into.
So if 80% of the kids fail to get into the package, it's child resistant. But the other thing is that they also test it on adults. And the adults have a similar amount of time to open it. And the thing is, if the adults can't open it, then they'll explain it to them and give them another minute or two. If they can open it, they'll feel good. I mean, because adults have to be able to open it.
Right, and if it's too hard for adults to open,
Then it's not very good.
But our school delegations.
I'm sorry?
Oh, yeah, no,
It's muted? No, it's not muted.
Jim?
Okay, well, we're on the phone. Thank you.
That's what's up there.
This one, how do I?
I can never get into that.
So those, oh, they have to go down
Yeah,
to
and then
slide it
slide
out.
down.
Oh. Yeah, that's a little more,
I'm gonna-
Together.
more
We're
coordination.
gonna add
Comes together with that, but that is
on the
more.
ice cream. I think I got confused on that.
I think, I don't know. I
For
thought maybe it was
ice cream or
because
for
of
peanut butter?
This was for,
Cat, well, cat
this
on
was
that.
for,
Almond butter.
almond butter, but it's,
For what, like,
Yeah, it's a little hard
this
to
is,
tell.
well, I'm talking about for Tasha.
But if you go out to the public document.
for the ice cream, you should do whatever the board told you to do for ice cream.
We'll just, we're gonna
When
do
was that
that
approved?
long time ago. But this,
62.
in its, I can't remember what form it was approved in, what Green says.
For the ice cream?
Yeah.
That's
It was
what
approved in
they-
Juno with 5 milligrams.
I mean.
Okay, so now,
sort of
yeah,
looks like
multi-unit.
boxes you did.
Yeah, but now it's multi-unit,
Yeah, no,
and so we'll just put the demarcations on there.
Is that what they
So
just
that
said?
goes-
Well,
I think they
we
said
don't
for
know what
both.
they said.
You do
For
lots of
both,
gifts.
they want it to have a larger package, but it has to be
But yeah, I mean, it
That's
I
actually,
think that's what I
because
heard.
we were
For the
talking about, you know,
demarcations for
the
the ice cream on
visibility
the
of the
drink.
warning, and you have to turn it sideways.
what I
so all
thought.
the-
That's what,
the
okay,
warning
okay,
signs
maybe I
are
just
signs
didn't
here.
say that.
But, well,
I-
don't, wait, don't.
That's what they said that happened
That's-
in Juneau.
Okay, so,
John.
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense, it's visible.
But then
I
did
don't
you-
know the score is there. But, so, I was just curious whether that was your package. Yeah.
because we are going to.
Okay, this one's just a prototype that's gonna work a little more smoothly.
I think Harry thinks that's in the motion.
Maybe that's part of the delegation.
Okay, so we're just gonna do that.
Yeah. Child resistance.
Squeeze
Yeah.
where it's,
Right.
Oh, you know what? Somebody give the governor one of those boxes right there, tell him it's $140 million is in it.
Thanks, Helen. He's looking for $40 million, though.
That's what I'm saying, 400 million, 400
Oh,
million.
400 million.
Yeah, the vetoes are in there.
This is everyone to see how this one
I
works.
did, that's a fun one.
Holy cow.
I don't
Apparently
disagree.
you have to have 3 hands, 2 to hold this,
Really?
Because I was trying to hold this down and then push
Twitter.
that spot.
Yeah, you kinda have to hold it down and
You
push it.
got the right, like, the way you're holding it.
See how we do it.
Smart.
Kelly did
Did she patent it?
that. No, we're gonna at least have time. We can say patent.
See that, Lauren?
Yeah, maybe that's.
She got this right.
Oh. Yeah. Try not to feel that word.
Okay.
She left once already. and
She
came back the
has
next day.
done that, that's true, yeah. We've seen that movie before, and this time it's not gonna make us proud.
All right, we're recording.
Okay, all right, we're back at, what time I got here, 2:47. So we are now at, Cold Creek Extracts.
The conference is no longer in listen-only mode.
I'm here. Cool, okay, cool, hold on a minute, let's wake some computers up.
Add 65 for those following at home.
Now I can use the Okay, we get a motion for, operating plan change license 15594, Cold Creek Extract.
So motion.
Second. Okay, moved and seconded. Go ahead, introduce yourself and tell us what you gotta do.
Yep, Kate Ensko, Cold Creek Extracts. We're doing a simple, just a packaging change on an already approved product. It's our full extract ethanol hash oil. Going to be putting that in half-gram and full-gram syringes and selling it at the retail level.
Okay, has it been a retail product before?
What's that?
Were you selling that as retail before, or?
It was not. It's kind of it's a precursor. Typically, we will turn it into a shatter or sugar wax, but people are wanting it in a syringe.
We're going, baby girl. I'm gonna take the truck, is that all right?
Okay. And the syringes are demarked?
Correct. Half-gram and full-gram.
It's not an edible.
It is not an edible. No, it's a smokable.
Yeah, so concentrate. Okay. any questions about this,
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I had a question. I looked on part of this, and page 5 of 8, and it shows a couple of glass containers that's the syringe or whatever, so that you can refill an e-cartridge. Then down a couple pages more, there's plastic tube or a bottle or tube. So syringe would be placed in the package that's labeled wholesale package to Gold Creek. Is that how you would put the syringe inside that?
No, the syringe is actually going to go inside a clamshell, similar to what we package our vape cartridges in. A plastic clear see-through clamshell.
Is there any residual, I see some mention here about residual left over, this is a photo bath. Oh, yeah, there shouldn't be any residual left in the syringe, should there?
No.
Okay. And how are you, I mean, it's not viscous enough that you'll have anything except maybe a little bit of film or something left on there?
No, it's pretty thick. Typically, people will have to warm it up, either rubbing it between their hands or putting a lighter to it, and then they can dab it from there.
Okay, but they'll be able to get it all out. You're not gonna.
Yeah, the plunger's very tight up on the glass. It doesn't leave any kind of residuals back in the glass or anything like that.
All right, and then once it gets okay. All right, good. Okay. Any more questions on Cold Creek extracts? And we hit a motion, right?
Yes.
All right. On license 15594, Cold Creek extracts, operating plan change. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Jaime?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Yes, there you go.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Tundra Herb Company in Anchorage. Tundra Herb Company, are you with us? Tundra Herb Company, Anchorage Retail. Hello. Okay. No sign of that. Let's move on to
Chair?
Yeah.
I know we usually don't deal with that unless they're here, but we're kind of ahead of schedule. But this has also been temporarily approved by staff. I'm not sure that we necessarily need to hold up anything on this one. It's already been temporarily approved. They're actually doing it. It's basically how they're displaying, I think. As I read it. So I don't know why we couldn't just proceed.
Go ahead and make a motion, Ron.
I would make a motion that we approve the operating plan change for Tundra Herb Company.
Okay, there's a second?
Second.
Okay, so Mr. Miller, all those in favor say aye.
I have a question. What is this, operational change? So the operating plan change.
We'd like to state the following: all marijuana products for displays will be stored in designated, labeled, and approved packaging.
Okay.
And replace in glass display cases.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor of that operating plan change, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Okay.
Opposed?
Duly noted.
Okay, so that's passed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So where am I supposed to go?
Okay, new products, AKO Farms.
A for effort.
AKO Farms, you in line?
Yes, sir. Justin Brown, owner AKO Farms.
All right. One product, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is there a motion for new product for AKO Farms?
Motion to approve, one new product for AK Farms, license number 16767.
Second.
Jones, okay, so Diamond is that or not? Yeah, go ahead and give us 30 seconds on this,
On diamonds?
yeah.
All right, this is a product. I'm rocking up the THCA. I'm trying to make terpene carts, and that's what usually fouls up the carts. So part of the process, I just put a lid on my vessel in my oven, and the THCA just rocks up on itself, and then I just pour my sauce off the top, and I have the two products.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a new member, who, understood that about as much as I did.
All right, sir. When it comes out of my BHO machine, I have my product, and then I just place it into a glass vessel with a lid and put it in my oven, and it cooks in my oven for a certain amount of time, and THCA crystals form, and that's the diamonds, and that's what I'm harvesting.
Is that a vacuum oven?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and so you're, okay, so you're taking what had been a cartridge product and you're turning it into diamonds?
Oh, it's actually, I was selling sugar wax, and sugar wax is a mix of the cartridge product and these diamonds. And so now I'm just putting it in the oven longer and putting a lid on it, and the two products are forming now, and I'm just splitting them apart instead of harvesting sugar wax.
Okay. Yeah, this is a pretty high-test product. All right, any questions on it? How's your, so your products get tested for residual, butane?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Sure.
Coming out good?
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, the vacuum ovens work well.
Yeah. All right. Any more questions on, AKO Farm? Okay, and, Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Jaime? Yes. Miller?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so there you go, all right.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, which brings us to what everybody's been waiting for, regulations. I know there's somebody waiting around to talk about regulations. Okay, we did the fine schedule. So I think tab 10 is next. Overlapping premises.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Do we want to spend time on possible board requests for proposed projects, or are we going to do that afterwards?
Do you have any?
I have a concern. I don't know if it needs to be.
Go ahead, Ray, let's talk about it.
Thank you.
The conference is now in listen-only mode.
June's starting to have the debate about on-site consumption. And in looking at the ordinance that had been produced, the initial attempts were to remove smoking from that because of pretty clear, we were much more strict than even the state. We still are a little bit more restrictive than the state. That failed, but there was some idea of amending that to possibly allow for on-site consumption of inhalant only outdoors. Two issues came up during the debate. One was outdoors in a rainforest. If you put a roof on the outdoor, does that become indoor? That may come up, depending on what happens. So I wanted to bring that to the board's attention, that may be an issue. If this had been approved and we're talking about a winter time, you know, a roof, even if you had, you know, open air above, you know, you'd stick those heaters in there and maybe you could do outdoors until November and come back in March and maybe not January, February in Fairbanks. But anyway, the other issue came up related to inhalation, and there were two industry members there that the assembly asked questions of. One got a little bit more lobbying than answering questions and had to be cut off, but that was okay. But the issue came up related to vaporization. My fellow assembly members immediately said vaping, well, that doesn't produce smoke like smoking of bud flower or tobacco. And I pointed out that the sale of concentrates for on-site consumption was not allowed, and that most of the vaping is vaping of concentrate. The industry people talked about vaporization of bud and flower. Apparently there was a machine called a volcano or something that actually you put the bud and flower in there and heat it up and you get some kind of vaporization. They even talked about it in a plastic bag, and I'm thinking of huffing gas, and all kinds of images are flying through my head. But they also said that it was related to the tourist industry and that, you know, people are smoking joints on the street anyway. So I think that there's some issues that may come up related to products. One of their ideas that they presented, and again, that would be part of their application, I assume, was that this volcano machine or whatever is $200 or $300. People really can't afford it. So if they sold the bud and they had a couple machines and somebody could put their own product in there and heat it up, and you know. So the assembly got a couple of members are going, well, that's better than the smoke, and I'm thinking, we don't want to go down that path. But when we get to consumption, it may not be that you sell, you know, bud and flower or pre-roll or whatever. Exactly what we mean by, you know, you can sell bud and flower for consumption. I talked to the director a little bit about, we allow retailers to do make pre-rolls, you know, from product. We allow cultivators. But if they put concentrate in it, you know, either through a syringe, roll it in keef, liquefy on the wrapping paper, whatever we do, we say that can only be done by a manufacturer, and I think that's a concentrate. So I think we may need to look at clarifying to people that have on-site, if you sell a pre-roll that has concentrate around it, in it, that's not for on-site consumption, or if it is. I mean, I think we need to make that kind of decision, because I think we have always said that the pre-rolls with the concentrates really are concentrates. Pre-rolls that are just the bud and flower and, you know, tobacco paper or whatever is a different issue. So there were just those 2 or 3 issues that came up that as we start to get some applications, and I say this in that we get a lot of issues and we've had a lot of discussion here about interpreting of regulations, and we read it differently than you read it. The industry, rightly so, is working on how to increase their business, coming up with new products, and they will always be ahead of our regulations. They will always be pushing the boundary of those regulations, and that's where we get the complaints of, you're not interpreting it right. So I was hoping that maybe this conversation might get us ahead, and whether or not we need to take a look at some of our regulations about, you know, what can be offered for on-site consumption, how it might be done, you know, could they, and one of the people testifying said they had been down in San Francisco, and they had gone into a retail store. And as you could, purchase the Bud and Flower and just walk over to a little corner, and they had a table and they had a volcano machine there, and you could partake. And they were asked, well, what kind of ventilation system do they have, or is it in a separate room? No, it's just in a little corner. So I went out and somebody in the back of the audience is much more skookum than I found the 18 pages of regulations from San Francisco City about on-site consumption. And it really did talk about being in a separate place, and did talk about ventilation, and did talk about a lot of things that this industry rep said wasn't even present where he could have consumed. So I think there's a lot of industry outside of Alaska that is also coming up with methods of use that we haven't talked about, or I didn't understand certainly. So this is a little rambling, but I do think that maybe we need to start anticipating a little bit, maybe what kind of questions freestanding becomes one of those, exactly what is, sellable for on-site consumption, not just that, they buy Bud and Flower and roll it and go outside and light it up, but if they provide machines to vaporize Bud, is that on-site consumption, or are we doing, anyway, partly because I don't understand those delivery systems, I raise the question. So, whether that becomes a regulation, whether we need to just start thinking about some of that and writing ideas down in case they come up, how we might handle those, how far do we want to try to get ahead of some of the innovation that may be out there. And I don't understand the industry as well as some of us do, and maybe worthy of a question or two. But so that's sort of my thinking around one of the, some of the issues that when we get an application before us, we may be asked to make some decisions we may not have thought about yet.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, I was kind of surprised when he says, yeah, here's those 16 pages of San Francisco city regulations. And yeah, I think we need to start thinking about clarification on, I hadn't even thought about the hash oil pre-roll, being concentrate. But there are pre-rolls that have concentrate. We'll have some public testimony at the end of the meeting. So yeah, do you want to propose a regulations project with a title, or you just want to?
Mr. Chair,
Might as well think about it.
I think Mr. Jones brings up a number of excellent points, but I think, looking at the on-site consumption cleanup, I think more work needs to be done on that, particularly based on some of the discussion that happened today during the review of the one application. I think there needs to be a lot more clarity on what a freestanding building means, what the board says it means, and I think the issue of whether or not you can have an outdoor area if there are multiple tenants in a building, but the smoking is outdoors, then what, can that be a possibility? There are different rules about smoking outdoors, and so we should probably look at those too. So I think there are some things there that probably need a little bit more work, and we could wrap in some of the things that Mr. Jones has mentioned today. So I would suggest to the board that maybe you don't need a brand new project, but that some of a lot of, if not all of those things, can be wrapped into the current on-site consumption cleanup project.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, we have that project out there. I just wanted the board to be aware of, in a 45-minute discussion, on an assembly meeting, people that aren't very familiar with the industry and stuff, I learned quite a bit that concern me of things that may eventually come to us in a manner that we're not quite ready or have thought about to prepare to handle. So working it back in and working more on some of the on-site cleanup, that's certainly acceptable to me.
Okay, very good. Anybody else got any projects they'd like to offer before we get into the regulations we got in front of us? Okay, then let's do tab 10, overlapping premises. Clarifies what type of space can be shared by multiple licensors. Erica,
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The board asked and initiated this product a year and a half ago, so I want to offer my very sincere apologies that it's taken this long to provide an initial draft. There are specific sections in the regulations that talk about if you have a cultivation facility, here you can also have a manufacturing facility. But it doesn't really say that for any other type of license, which is kind of odd because this Alaska does have vertical integration of licenses, meaning you can hold a cultivation license, a manufacturing license, and a retail license. The only prohibition is if you have a testing facility license, you can't have other types of commercial licenses, and if you have cultivation, retail, or product manufacturing, you can't have any ownership in a testing license. So there was that, and then there's the issue of we often see licenses, different licenses that are located in the same building, and there's been desire to be more efficient with the use of space by sharing certain elements of the building between two licenses. So the board's allowed certain things, they've questioned other things, and so this project tries to make it very clear what can be permitted and what isn't permitted. So what has been proposed is repealing anything, repealing the specific stuff that talks about if you have a cultivation license, you can have a manufacturing license. And that's not to take away that right, it's just that that stating that in particular does not need to be stated. And it creates a new section in 705, 306-705 that says licenses have to be in contiguous areas, which is a board policy, with minor exceptions, and an exception carved out for overlapping areas. And then it basically says what can be overlapping. And as I think you heard in some testimony earlier, what's proposed to be overlapping are those areas where there isn't going to be marijuana. So we're talking about office space, break rooms, bathrooms, areas where you might store non-marijuana items, so cleaning supplies, mop buckets, brooms, mops, that sort of thing. And the reason for that is chain of custody of product. Seed to sale tracking is an integral part of this whole system, and when you start to mix who owns what product on what premises, it gets very confusing. And I don't know if you remember one of the NOVs, but there was an NOV where, what was in certain rooms didn't match at all with what was in metric. So we already see that there's, it can be issues with maintaining metric accuracy with what's actually in the premises. And once you start mixing in, this is my opinion, my recommendation, once you start mixing in marijuana or marijuana product that's actually owned by a different license, once you start mixing those premises, I think it will only get more difficult and confusing. So my recommendation, as proposed in this, would be certainly to allow these areas that are not restricted access areas and thus would have no marijuana in them, marijuana would not pass through them, those could be shared. There is one particular thing that I would point out, and this is that what is proposed is that these spaces could be shared as long as the licensee is the same. And one thing we do see is that if somebody wants to own all three types of licenses, they will often make a different entity for their retail store than for their cultivation and their manufacturing, which I believe has to do with tax implications. And so as written, if you had different licensees, so if I have McConnell LLC that owns my cultivation and my manufacturing, but I have Erica LLC that owns my retail and my cultivation could not share space. Maybe you want to be a little more liberal than that, I don't know, but that's how it's particularly written. And that would be at the bottom of page 2, in 306-705, a new subsection D where it says, a licensee operating 2 or more licenses within the same building or with abutting premises may designate the following areas to be used in common. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So the discussion we had yesterday where they wanted to maintain grow marijuana and retail marijuana in the same room, they were going to be in separate locked containers. Have you given any thought to making a provision for that? You know, they can be.
Well, I think their request, while being separate locked containers, was that retail marijuana that was in metric, be in the retail, would actually be in the cultivation space.
Well,
the actual premise. So it might be different containers, but the actual marijuana would not be in the retail space. It would be in the cultivation premises. So that would be like, I don't know how the alcohol one, but, cash liquor is here, Triangle Bar's here, there's a bar in between. Triangle stores all their stuff over in cash liquor. I don't know if that would be allowable or not, but I think that would be kind of tricky, even though they're owned by the brother and sister. Mm-hmm. So I understand it, and I do understand where reasons you may have the same ownership but different corporate names. I know we have approved licenses in which 2 owners had an interest in the cultivation and 1 owner did not. And those 3 are now doing retail. Even though they might be co-located, you'd have 2 of the owners of 1 and, would be co, but there'd be at least 1 or 2 owners that weren't part of the other license at all. But I understand that they operate as if. But we know that the owners of the retail, if they're not part of the ownership of the cultivation, really couldn't be in the cultivation other than as a visitor. So, I'm willing to put this out for public hearing and let people let us hear what their concerns are. I think if we wanted to alter it as the director had suggested before we send it out, related to the license, I would be willing to hear that specific language again, and we can make that amendment before it goes out for public hearing. I think that might help with some of the public comments as well. Yeah.
Anything else? So how did you want to? What was the suggestion that you put in there?
So if you wanted to entertain the concept that different licensees could share these areas, and this is off the top of my head, I would say at the bottom of page 2 in 705D, something along the lines of 2 or more. I'm kind of talking and thinking at the same time. So if we just said 2 or more licenses within the same building or with abutting premises. So I would just eliminate a licensee operating from the beginning of that sentence and just say 2 or more licenses within the same building or within abutting premises may, with board approval, designate the following area on the licensed premises of each license to be used in common by all licenses.
I think we did have somebody, we had 2 completely separate licenses that wanted to share space. Is there a motion to amend that prior to setting it out?
I would so move.
Is there a second?
A second.
All right, moved and seconded to take out a licensee operating. Make it a capital T. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Chair, I would move that we put the amended regulations out for public comment.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Miller. All those in favor of sending it up for the comment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Brings us to handler permit revocation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The board initiated this project at the February meeting to give a little, to expand the reasoning of why a handler permit may be revoked and to give a little bit more explanation of the process. The current draft only says that a handler permit can be revoked for violating the regulations, and it's not really spelled out in the regulations that you can't steal marijuana, even though we all know you can't steal marijuana. So it just seemed reasonable to sort of expand that to violations of statute, regulation, or municipal ordinance. The board requested that a licensee be allowed to ask the board to suspend or revoke a handler permit. This clarifies that we'll have to provide notice to the holder of the permit at the email address that they have provided in their handler permit application. It requires, and this is the board has adopted this as a policy, but it requires that a list of suspended, revoked, or expired permits be maintained and published. It provides an appeal provision for an individual whose permit has been revoked. And also, this is a policy that we've implemented that would be put in here, that if somebody pays for their handler permit with a check and the check bounces, that I have the authority to suspend that permit until such time as we have received payment and any sort of bank fees related to the bounce check.
Mr. McConnell, do we have a copy of that folder?
It's on the, it should be the second page.
Yes, tab 11.
Tab 11, second page.
So does this mean that we're gonna have to start background checking handler permit holders?
So they already get a name-based background check, which is only an Alaska-based check.
So where it says that they're found to have violated, that could be past tense, right?
That's what kind of bothers me, is that one of the things about the industry is that it's providing employment opportunities to people who, for example, might not be able to go work for the Health Corporation in Bethel because they got a DV from 10 years ago. Or, you know, any number of offenses that are, you know, might be barriers to employment, you know, under the HHS matrix. And I'm not just that.
So the board's established already adopted thresholds, so you can't get a handler permit if you've been convicted of a felony in the last 5 years, are currently on probation or parole for that felony, or have been convicted of a Class A misdemeanor involving a controlled substance other than a Schedule 6A controlled substance in the last 2 years, or within the 2-year period immediately preceding submission of your handler permit application, been convicted of a Class A misdemeanor relating to selling, furnishing, or distributing marijuana, or is currently under indictment for an offense listed under this section. So that's those things. If your name-based background check shows up one of those things, you won't get a handler permit to begin with. So we're not talking about we're taking away your handler permit because you did something 6 years ago. We're talking about we have evidence that you stole product, or that you let in a minor even though you checked their ID, you know, that kind of thing.
Sure. Okay. All right. This is started in 2019, but Pete was beating on this one for a number of years. Okay, any
comments on this one, a motion?
Chair, I would move that we put the regulations related to handler permit revocation out for public hearing.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Okay, moving seconded, any other comments?
You mean out for comment, not hearing, right?
Public
Yeah.
comment.
Thank you.
Did I say hearing?
Yes.
On my brain, sorry.
Who was the second?
Mr. Hymy. Okay, all those in favor of sending, handler permit revocation, VAC 306-812 out for public comment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So we've got public comments received on rating.
So, Mr. Chair, this, would you like me to walk through this?
Yes, we please.
Okay, so this, changes, so first of all, it changes all, transportation batches to 10 pounds instead of 5 pounds. And, then it also, says that harvests shall be, put into harvest batch packages not to exceed 10 pounds each, and then each harvest batch package has to have a separate test, and if the harvest batch package test fails, then that 10-pound package has to either be destroyed or be requested to be sent to a product manufacturing facility for being turned into concentrate, but it does not destroy the entire harvest, just that harvest batch package. It also, the board had already created a sort of an increasing sample size based on the harvest batch package size, so it just tries to clarify that this is the harvest batch package size goes up to 10 pounds, and as you get larger, you have to select more 1-gram subsamples. And so the concept is not that you know, if you have a 9-pound package, you don't just grab 14 grams. You take 14 1-gram samples, representative samples from that 9-pound package. It also states that if your marijuana is going to be sent to a licensed concentrate or product manufacturer, if you're a cultivation facility and your marijuana is going to be sent for extraction, that you do not have to have it tested before you send it to that cultivation facility. That doesn't mean you can't have it tested, but you don't have to have it tested because it's going to be turned into something else, and that something else will be tested. It goes into, so I'm on page 5 now under failed material and retests, and so this entire section is proposed to be repealed and readopted. So let's see. Failed testing can still be requested to go to make a carbon dioxide or solvent-based extract, which then has to pass all tests. And we added this, the issue of can you get a second test if you've passed the test. And the board has discussed this before. If your harvest passes, if your flower passes the test, but you don't think that the potency is accurate, can you get it retested? And the board in general said, no, your test is your test is your test, and you can't kind of answer shop for your testing. But we do have this issue of product manufacturers who have passed a test, but they see some residual solvents. It's within the thresholds that are set by the regulations, but so it doesn't fail the testing, but they would like to get rid of that last little bit of residual solvents. And so we proposed this new D, which says that the director may authorize a retest of marijuana concentrate that passed a required test when the licensee wishes to reprocess a marijuana product to further reduce residual solvent levels. It doesn't solve the issue of sort of R&D testing. I think that's really a metric issue and not a regulations issue. And then it makes a minor amendment to the definition of batch or harvest batch. So, so you might hear comments about, again, people wanting to sort of get additional testing for potency, even if it passes a test. But I just, what becomes the valid, what becomes the correct test? I think that's a slippery slope down which to go. And really, if you pass the test, that should be your test results for the purpose of labeling your harvest, and that's sort of where the board has landed in the past. So, there's that's the other project. Never mind. Going to get into another issue, but that's a different project.
Okay, so got a few comments on here. Seems like people like the So we're going to send this out or no, this is, go to adopt, yeah, okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
One question I wanted to ask, and apologize that I didn't see this before. When I look at, I guess I'm on page 6 of 11, it's except that a cultivation facility may transfer untested marijuana to a licensed concentrate manufacturer or product manufacturer. And I understand, as the director explained, sort of why that's there. But the manufacturer then is required, whenever they turn that into something else, to get it tested. One of the things we have discussed here before, and I alluded to it, is the pre-roll that then has concentrate put in it. And we always try to figure out, how do you test that product? And we always said, well, what you were required to do on the label is tell us what the test results were for the bud and flower, tell us what the test results were for the keef that you rolled it in, and tell us what the test results are of the concentrate that you syringed into the bud and flower. If a cultivator transfers bud and flower without it being tested to a product manufacturer, and that product manufacturer turns it into the super roll, that bud and flower won't have been tested. There won't be something to put on the label unless the manufacturer has that tested before they add the concentrate. And so that becomes a responsibility of the manufacturer, not the cultivator. Maybe a loophole we don't want to have happen, but I'm not sure how to fix it at this state. But, so, and I assume what the cultivator's probably doing is, I got a bunch of product that I don't think is very good, and I got a manufacturer that's willing to, pay me fair cost because, they're gonna squeeze it down and chase all the oil out of it. But there may be a manufacturer that would take some of that and end up with a super, but it just something that came to my mind as we had talked just recently about on-site consumption. There is that one slight possibility out there that a manufacturer could produce a roll that would have product in it that had not been tested, that can't be tested once it's been made into this product.
But I would also say that if he did that, it would be a huge mistake because he wouldn't be able to transfer it to a retail without a passing test.
Yeah. I understand that.
So it's not really
It would be his
loophole.
responsibility to get it tested, or the
Yeah,
pardon me for using pronouns that aren't appropriate anymore. The manufacturer would be responsible for that test, and so they should be aware that if they have untested and they're going to make it into a product in which we require 3 separate labels, because it's sort of 3 products put together, without it being in a concentrate form or altered form. So I just raised that for consideration. I'm not sure, maybe we need to deal with that here, but I raised that.
I think the word straight manufacturer ought to be taken out, because the only place you can send failed marijuana or untested marijuana is to a concentrate manufacturer. And the reason for that is
Well,
that in the concentrate
failed,
process,
yeah.
you eliminate, there's no issue, there's no more issue with biological contaminants. And so it gets cooked out of it. But, no manufacturer in their right mind would take, untested or failed marijuana to, make a pre-roll with, no matter what they did in afterwards. That's illegal.
Your definition of somebody in their right mind versus...
Why does it say concentrate manufacturer or manufacturer?
Because we have those 2 separate licenses for manufacturing.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chair, for a failed test, it doesn't say it can only be sent to a concentrate manufacturer. It says it can only be used to make carbon dioxide or solvent-based extract. So maybe we need to take that language and put it.
Yeah, and that's a concentrate
Something like,
manufacturer, anyway.
no, product manufacturers can do that as well. They can just do other things. So what if,
I think it's got to be consistent.
So what if we said, except that a cultivation facility may transfer untested marijuana to a licensed concentrate manufacturer or product manufacturer to be used to make carbon dioxide or solvent-based extract?
I think that would solve my issue. Yeah.
We don't want to give the impression.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that we amend, let me get the right, 306455C, as per the comments that the director made, adding language that it can only be used for making a certain concentrate.
That was a motion, I believe, right?
And
Was it?
Was that a motion?
Yes, it was a motion.
Second.
Second, yeah.
Where does failed?
On page 5 at 306-660.
Okay, and that's got the carbon dioxide solvent-based extract. And we may want to put the additional sentence after processing instead of pass or required tests in the amendment. Is that okay, Joe?
Sure.
All right.
I have one question. On the sample size for the harvest batches, the test facility I use likes a 6-gram sample. It's okay to send 6 instead of 4 for like a 2-pound harvest, right?
Sure.
I just want to make sure.
Send more.
It says 4.
Send the whole 2 pounds if you want. Send the whole 2 pounds if you want.
I'd be tested if I did that.
Okay, so, on the amendment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, okay.
So,
Main motion?
Is this a substantive amendment?
I don't believe so. Oh, yeah, that's right, we're not going up. What do you think?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think I would call it a clarifying amendment, but I don't think it changes the substance of
No,
what you
it's
intend.
clarifying it as consistent with other regulations, and it's clearly protective of public health.
Mr. Chair, then I would move that board adopt the regulations on tracking and grading as amended and as amended.
There's a
second?
Second.
Okay, seconded. Any further discussion? This is tab 12. This is tab 12. Okay, so with that, we'll roll call. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Jaime?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
I'm a yes, so passes 4-0. Next one, tab 13, testing oversight. How are we doing with DEC these days?
Well, we don't have our RSA in place, but we're working on it, and it's more of a effort and time rather than, we're not entering problems, it's just time and effort. I believe that, in fact, Mr. Krupe might be on the phone, so let's find out.
The conference is no longer in listen-only mode.
Steve Krupe from DEC, you online?
They may be anticipating this to happen tomorrow as well.
Will be.
But I believe that he may be interested in making some amendments to his compliance document based on some of the comments received. So I'm not sure this is ready for adoption.
We can.
Yeah.
Tomorrow or September. Tomorrow, yeah.
See what it says tomorrow.
And see what he might have to comment, and then we may need to.
The conference is now in listen-only mode.
Table tab 13 until tomorrow, and we're gonna be out here at what time?
We should be out by 4:30.
4:30.
Or
Okay.
5.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right, then let's go to tab 14.
Okay. So as briefly, so let me just cover the changes that are included here, and then we can discuss further changes. So this tries to separate. Right now, the regulations say any retail store that wants to have an on-site consumption endorsement has to be a freestanding retail store. Whether or not clearly there's not board agreement on what freestanding means, but this, but the issue of freestanding comes out of the smoking prohibition. And it was discussed at a previous board meeting that if there isn't going to be any smoking in the on-site consumption area, if it's going to be an edibles-only area, why would it need to be in a freestanding building? So the first thing that this project proposes to do is to separate the requirement for a retail store to be freestanding to apply only to those on-site consumption endorsements where consumption by inhalation is proposed. It also tries to address approval in an area with no local government, and that would have to be by petition, in the same way that a license would have to be by petition. See, what else does it do? It clarifies that the ventilation system is only required when consumption by inhalation is proposed to be permitted, because if you're not going to be smoking, then we're not really worried about the inhalation system. Requires information on air intake vents for outdoor consumption to be submitted only if consumption by inhalation is permitted. And it clarifies that a freestanding building could include other marijuana licensed premises, which I think the board had said that was what they thought, but I don't, maybe that's just what I've proposed. I don't remember whether the board has made a decision on that. So that's what this does. I think it needs to do more. I think it needs to do a better job of clarifying the board's interpretation of freestanding. And I think it needs to be more clear in accordance with Mr. Jones' comments that any product available for consumption, well, we have to be careful because edibles usually contain concentrates. So we have to be careful when we're talking about concentrates we have to address the sort of moon rock issue or the rolled pre-roll that includes concentrates. I think more clarification of what an outdoor area means would be useful. Not only is there winter, but there's also areas, rainforest areas, like Mr. Jones said. So can you have a roof? You can have a roof. What percentage of your walls, what if you put up plastic all around it and it's, I don't really know what qualifies technically as indoors versus outdoors. So have to talk about that. And then, Mr. Jones, I took notes. What was your third thing? Notes on the agenda. The vaporization issue.
So would you like to send it back to staff?
Well, yes, I'd like you to send it back to staff, but I would also like you to tell me, particularly in relation to freestanding, what you want me to put in there.
You want a definition of freestanding from us? Is that what you're asking?
I want you to tell me what you want, and then I'll figure out how to phrase it. But yes, I think we can all read the legislature's definition and we can all go, huh? It doesn't really, I heard, the board had different interpretations. I heard various members of the public say, oh, I thought it meant this. No, I thought it meant that,
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
If I might, sort of leads into the one comment that I had written down that, coming back to me is, in the last, 990B 42, which is page 5, almost the last page, it says freestanding as a mean as given in 18-305-301I1. Then we add, and includes buildings that contain premises licensed under this chapter. And we struggled today whether having another business in a building made it freestanding or not. And basically, 2 of us felt that it wasn't freestanding, and 2 of us felt that it was. I don't know if legally we would be treating independent businesses in a like manner if we said if you had an auto body shop in the bottom and you had a retail on the top of a building, you want to do on-site consumption, you couldn't do it because it's not freestanding. But if you had a cultivation on the bottom owned by somebody else and you were doing a retail on the top, and we could allow that. I don't think we'd be treating legal businesses in a like manner. And so I agree that I think we need to work on that, and we need to put in an interpretation. I think from my standpoint, which may not be the standpoint of others, a standalone building is a single building that contains a single business, and that single business is the marijuana business that wants the on-site. I realize that might be a standard that might be hard in some communities. I'm thinking particularly in Juneau, there might be only one building, one current retailer that could have an outdoor consumption area. But that building fits this definition. It has retail and a cultivation. And I'm not sure that it may not have another business on the other side, but I haven't been out there in a while. But it was at one time a building that had only one business. But now it is a building that has at least 2, if not 3 businesses. And so, for guidance to the director, I think we should be as narrow as we think the law would allow, that this needs to be a single building housing a single business, and that business is the licensed retail that is asking for the on-site. that may, as it gets written up, be too strict and not fit other legal definitions and would be broadened out, but I would suggest we start there. I think others, you might start with it more broad and try to narrow it. So anyway, so we probably won't get to the straight, we all agree, Director, you should write it this way today.
Probably.
But,
I would say, you're right, we're not gonna agree today, but keeping it so narrow also doesn't allow local governments any opportunity to comment and enact the regulations as they would like. I believe that they should be written fairly in the median there, so they at least have a choice. By narrowing it down so narrow that only one building in one community, southeast in Juneau, qualifies, doesn't really give the local community input to say, if we make it a little broader, there might be 5 or 6 buildings that would qualify under the state regulations, but they can write their local ordinances tighter if they want to pull that in. And we keep talking about giving the local communities control, then let's give them a little control. They've done a great job. You may not agree with their decisions. My community I disagree with as well, because they only allow edibles. But we can't write things so narrowly that they don't really have a choice. We don't want to write them too broadly where things go south. So let's try to be a little balanced in both directions and give that local community a vote. Right now, I mean, you said it, make it as narrow as possible. That just doesn't feel right. We're here to serve the public, and we have to let the public have some input, and that means the local governments as well. So, I mean, I know we're telling you go one way on one side. I'd like to just see something in the middle that could be accomplished, but it gives the local governments the ability to say yes or no.
well, I don't know that either one of us would eliminate or give the local government more control. I think you have to look at, we have 7 retail licenses in June. Those businesses made decisions long before on-site was a possibility, and so they are basically in buildings that don't come into compliance no matter what we do. The local community can easily say, you know, if you really were in a freestanding building, and they say, great. So they would have to come to us, vacate their current license, complete another application, move their business to the other business to comply with the local, because there's no way the local community could write, you know, the one is, you can have one customer in that shop, plus the bud tender and the person checking ID, and you're out of room. You know, the wall, it's, you know, 10 feet wide and 10 feet deep, and, you know, there's no way you're gonna do on-site in a place like that. I think I could live with, you know, middle ground, and we can play around with it when we get into hearing about it. But I think the local government has some roles in terms of, in the regulations on-site now. You know, they have to abide by the ventilation rules that are within the local. They have to abide by the zoning. You couldn't have a retail in a residential place in Juneau, because we don't allow that through zoning. So the local, and plus the local option is to ban it completely or alter it. Whether or not we would want to give the definition of freestanding to every local community, given you have a state law that has a definition of freestanding, that might be a little bit hard. I think all of that is worthy of some, you know.
We probably didn't help.
Let me ask,
but this is a good discussion for her to hear.
Yeah.
Because if, you know, she can make an attempt to write it, and if we got a chance to look at it and then, you know, change it around. But, I just wanted to get, you know, my sentiments out, you got yours out.
let me ask
I'm
Ms.
sure
Phillips
that-
a question. So the marijuana board, under the authority of Title 17, is wrestling with our interpretation of a term in Title 18. What is the standard practice when you have a new piece of legislation and it has a term or a word or a phrase that's very important to a lot of people, but the regulators, particularly, who have the responsibility of framing around that statute, what is the practice to get a standard definition? Is it to start with the dictionary and look up freestanding and building, or would it be appropriate for us to ask, the Attorney General to define that term, or is there possibly some legislative history that could be examined? Because I know in federal legislation, that's the first thing they say is look at the record. I don't know how much of a legislative record there is for that, but I would, I have just a sneaking hunch that if we're not able to come up with a good, defensible definition of that, somebody else is. So are there places we can look or that we can ask?
Yes. Let me start with what's not going to happen. The Attorney General is not going to define freestanding for you. That is your job. And you would look first to the definition in Title 18 because that's where you find the carve-out for smoking. I think the way the definition is proposed to be here, adopting the definition of 1835-301 and adding to it, interpreting it for your purposes, is the way to go. I think that what I've gotten out of this discussion and the earlier application is that that definition is not, it's creating issues for you because it doesn't anticipate all the different circumstances that can exist within a freestanding building. So I think you have plenty of room to work in considering who gets to exist in that freestanding building. Given what the director observed earlier, which is everything's a freestanding building. I mean, really, the Diamond Mall is a freestanding building. So you can work within that definition and you can make your own interpretation of what, as I said, what goes on within that freestanding building. How is the building chopped up in your mind? What about the circumstance of a strip mall? What about the circumstance we saw earlier where it is a freestanding building and the marijuana business is on the first floor and there are other tenants on the second floor? It is a freestanding building for sure, and it's not supported by any other structure. I don't think you can interpret each of those businesses to be their own freestanding building, but you have a circumstance over which you have authority to regulate, and that is multiple businesses within a freestanding building. So I think you have plenty of room to work there. And what I would like to hear is for you to, Mr. Jones's point about local control and Mr. Miller's point about local control are great. The local governing bodies are going to take care of themselves here. So it's great that you anticipate that, but I think what the director needs is it could be a hodgepodge. Just give her, it's like Scrabble, give her the Scrabble pieces to say, here's what we think works, here's what might not work, and then I will work with her to try to fit it all into a definition. What circumstances seem to be acceptable to you that would fit into a description of a freestanding building? Does that help?
Yes. Yes.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just make one more plug from my understanding. Title 18 says no smoking in buildings, but it carves out this exception. And using the Fairbanks cut as an example, it doesn't say smoking is in all parts of this building. It says you can smoke in the building if it's a freestanding building, and so you have to look at where smoking is to be proposed, which is just in the Fairbanks cut, and then say, oh, well, the Fairbanks cut as a building is supported by G2 construction as a building, because we're not proposing to carve out G2 construction to allow smoking in G2 construction.
Right.
So while I think the terminology should have been means a space that is not supported by another structure, or you know, they could have chosen better words, it seems that we have to examine it as the carve out where we're going to allow smoking is that particular area freestanding in that it's not supported by other building. And to me, I'm just trying to explain my thinking. To me, that doesn't make sense. Now, you know, we had two members who said, no, we think it is a freestanding building. And I'd be very interested to hear what you think is not a freestanding building under, you know, the interpretation that the Fairbanks cut qualifies as a freestanding building, because as I said in my report, and as Ms. Milks just reiterated, if that's a freestanding building, then everything is a freestanding building, and then I don't know what's disqualified. And I think the legislature put this qualification on for a reason. They didn't say anybody can, you know, the marijuana board can approve this for anybody. They said the marijuana can approve this under very specific circumstances. And so we're trying to puzzle out what those circumstances are.
Well, those fellows out there at the intersection of Machina Hot Springs Road with the, you know, the Connex or Connex-shaped building, freestanding building, one business activity going on in it, licensed premises. They could put up a fence and have a on-site consumption.
Yes, but what wouldn't qualify then?
Well, that's what.
So one potentially fruitful avenue is to look at the legislative history and see if we can find, there may be testimony where one of the legislators said, we want it to be a freestanding building because we don't want anybody else in the building but the business that's doing the smoking to be doing the smoking, and there you have your answer.
Yes,
you might find. I'll be happy to look at that if that's
okay.
what
Yeah,
you
that'd be great. Yeah,
that could be informative.
That'd be great. And while I'm thinking about speaking of legislative and you working, thank your assistant for putting together that table of cases for us.
It's a work in progress, but I certainly will. Thank you.
And I just want to go on the record for myself. A freestanding building, in my opinion, is sole occupancy. One business, not multiple businesses. Regardless if it's vertical or horizontal.
And occupancy is a characteristic that comes to mind for me. I might be a little bit more liberal and say a building occupied by no more than, you know, two unrelated businesses, one of them being a licensee. Because an awful lot of our licensees are in small buildings, but they are, you know, there is something else in the building with them. It might be I think we have one that's got like mini storage. They've got a retail, like down southeast, they got retail and they got a mini storage. Yeah.
There's a cultivator, but not.
There's a cultivator, there's a cultivator? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's, you know, and I keep coming back to, especially in this case with the Fairbanks cut, not that mentioning their name implies any sort of record development for them, but they're talking about a fenced-in area outside of their building. The fence would be incorporated into the licensed premises, but it's not within the building proper.
No, but Mr. Chair, there's a section of the smoking bill that addresses outdoor smoking. You can smoke outdoors on the licensed premises, so they could conceivably, in that business or any other business, have a smoking garden.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is it within 20 feet or whatever the statutory prescription is of a window.
And Mr. Chair, the way the regulations are currently written, all retail stores have to be in a freestanding building before they can have an on-site consumption area, indoor or out. Maybe that's not reasonable. So maybe we also change it to say you can have an outdoor consumption area. You don't have to be freestanding to have an outdoor consumption area, but you have to meet, you know, and then we really should probably tuck in some more of these smoking rules into that.
Yeah, I'd like to see if there is any legislative history on term freestanding.
Will do.
And, we're gonna, you know, there's four of us here, none of us are lawyers, but I guarantee you're gonna get 6 opinions out of the four of us. So, have you got enough food for thought for a little while, or would you like more?
I have a great deal to work with. What I bring to you at the next meeting, I know is not going to make every one of you happy.
Yeah, yep. Okay, so is there a motion to send the on-site consumption cleanup back to Beth? With the comments thus far.
So moved.
A second. Okay. So anything more there about freestanding? I'd say, you know, one element of freestanding should be, and of course it's almost universal, that the principal entry to the licensed establishment, you know, should be open to the outside. We don't have very many, if we have any in-malls or nothing, where you go in, you go through an interior door to get in.
We have a couple where you go into
Cost of view of their hotel.
Oh, and I think I can think of at least one that the board looked at recently where you sort of go into a little ante room where you can go one way into a different business or one way into a retail store.
Yeah.
But I think they're in the same building.
Yeah.
Well, there you were just saying that the
That's
entry...
you?
No, he's
In Bethel?
No, that's well, yeah, that is you actually.
Maybe that was what I was thinking of.
Yeah, you go right, you go to a dental clinic, you go left, you go. So it's Arctic entry, I guess is what I would say.
Are you in a freestanding building?
Am I?
In Bethel?
He's in a strip mall.
Yes.
In a freestanding building.
I have to give you my definition of freestanding.
Okay, please do.
I look at a strip mall as not a freestanding building because in many cases, not everybody owns every business, not business property, right?
Mhm.
A strip mall right now, there could be 6 businesses in there, but there could be actually 3 property owners.
Mm-hmm.
I look as a free.
Welcome to the GCI Conference Center. Thank you. Please stand by. You are being placed into conference in listen-only mode. There are 16 participants in the conference.
She has a different definition, I'm
And those property
sure.
owners' walls are supporting other property owners' walls.
Which ones?
In the case of a strip mall.
I believe a strip mall is what the regulation was specifically meant to support. At a freestanding, that doesn't qualify as a freestanding building, was my point. A strip mall doesn't qualify. Because it is attached, they're all attached to each other and they have different property owners. But one building owned by one property owner that doesn't have any other buildings touching it, freestanding. That's how I got to my definition of freestanding.
But the strip mall's attachments to each other are unrelated to the ownership. They could be owned by one person or they could be owned by 6 different people. The actual physical structure of the building is the same.
But
so I don't see how the ownership...
how I got to my definition.
Yeah, but I don't see how the ownership factors in. Okay, but I'm sorry, I don't want to, I don't mean to be argumentative.
But if one owner owned the whole strip mall,
Then it's a freestanding
and
building?
it's not touching the buildings, I would consider that a freestanding building.
Mr. Jones. We may have some hints, I don't know that this satisfies us all, but under 18, 35, 301 or 1838, 301. If you go down to, in the first section, D, it says, notwithstanding A and B of this section, unless the owner or operator prohibits it, an individual may smoke at a retail tobacco or e-cigarette store that, 1, is a building that, A, is freestanding, or B, if it is attached to another business or building. This legislation says at least a tobacco shop can allow smoking, and they differentiate between a freestanding and one that has another business. Is attached to another business or building. So they're separating business and building. So I think if you had a single building that had two businesses, you'd have to have special permission to do that. So there's some hint in here that freestanding literally means one without any other business versus business. Now, that only deals with retail tobacco, but it gives some hint, because further on down, when it defines freestanding, then it talks about it, a structure, and it uses slightly different words. But there's some hint that at least the legislature was looking at freestanding being different from a building that might be attached to another business, because it's separated business and building. So just as a hint, there may be something there in the legislative record that gives us some better idea. And you never want to watch sausage being made if you want to enjoy it. Watching legislation gets made is worse.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see people write the same piece of legislation, and by the time they accept parts out of all three, it no longer makes any sense to any one of the three. We may be in some legislation that does that, and people will be looking at changing it, but at least there is some hint that freestanding for them does not mean one that has multiple businesses in it.
Okay, with that, I think we should knock it off till tomorrow morning.
So, the motion's there to remand back to staff. Are we gonna just act on that?
I think we have amply loaded the plate. Okay, so all those in favor of sending on-site cleanup back to staff, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned until tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. And we will be done before.
The chairperson has disconnected. The conference will now end.